For this uh, the session, guys. My name is Rajiv Kumar, and I'm going to be your instructor, or you can say the trainer. I mean, whatever what you can utilize here for this particular session. So I will help you to ensure that we all are prepared for the examination, and accordingly we can actually move on. Since it is the first day of the session, so it's important that we should be setting up the agenda. So what we are covering, how we are covering, what are the topics which we have here to cover up for the session. We'll set up in this particular agenda. Okay. So let me start with my quick introduction. So as I told, my name is Rajiv Kumar, and I'm in this industry from the last now it's more than 15 years. Specifically, the information security is one of my expertise, which I'm actually handling from the very long time. Currently working as a cyber manager for one of the organization, and training which I do from the very early of my career as well. Uh, so you can say along with my main job role, training is what I do something from very early of my career, which is actually you can say one of my passion as well. So that's the reason I'm in the training as well. But moreover, it's my training style is little unconventional, guys, and I mean as compared to the others. So definitely you have to look for whether basically you're able to understand all the things properly, and definitely you can give me the feedback if there is any issue you are facing there. Now, from the CISSP perspective, I have already trained, I think more than I can't give you the exact number, but it should be now more than 15,000 learners uh, on the CISSP side. Um, and definitely it's basically moreover, it's very much successful for me and for my learners as well. So, mm, so this is my quick introduction, guys. One more thing, yes, I'm already certified on this particular CISSP. And not only the CISSP, but anything which is relevant to the information security. Mostly I'm certified, except few names which I am now targeting next. Like, and right now under my hood, I think now I have more than 75 certification. Yeah, and some of the big one I'm now next targeting. Uh, which I'm planning to complete either this month or might be next month max. Right. But yeah, this session is on CSSP. So yep, I'm already certified on that particular technology, and moreover, I'm dealing with the same thing in my day-to-day career as well there. So when I say dealing with the same thing in my career, it means I'm dealing with the risk management, I'm dealing with the cloud security, I'm dealing with the information security, I'm dealing with the policy, process, procedure, making sure that organization is well aligned with the objective of the organization, and very many different things which the CISSP is basically uh, approaching you to follow. I'm actually doing in the day-to-day basis there for different organizations. Typically, the financial organization I used to work with a lot. So the big banks and some financial organization, and definitely, I mean, big banks is basically my target, or you can say my moreover my customers. But apart from that, definitely I had dealt with a different other vendors who used to provide service to the customers there. Okay, so this is my quick introduction. I hope my whiteboard is visible, and this is what exactly one of my unconventional way. My most of the time is going to be on my whiteboard instead of following the PPT. Okay, so I used to share my information with the help of whiteboard only. PPT, or you can say the slides I will be taking as a reference, but it's going to be very less. So if you are looking for a percentage, so you can say 90% of my time is going to be on my whiteboard. 10% you can say I will be touching the slides there. And again, it's the reason is because I had done lots of delivery, so I'm aware about that, what is the content in that particular chapters and definitely the domain. So it's basically it's all thing is now fitted for me there, right? But yeah, any moment of time you feel that you also require the support of slide, you can let me know. So I'm open for the feedback there. Okay, so let's start then. If until unless you have any question for me before I start.
Hey, hi.
Rajiv, it's Shish here. Can I ask a quick question? So, are we going to be focusing on through your lectures? Are you going to be actually calling out any special, like particular topics that is exam relevant? Something that's going to turn up in the exam? Is it something that you'll be highlighting so that we can make a note of? Um, just wanted to check that.
Okay, noted. Let me give you the answer. What's the other question?
Hi, Rajiv. This is Aishwarya. I have
Yeah.
three things to know. For one is, see, as of
Mhm.
now, I have experience only on network security. I'm working on firewalls and all. I'm also leading a team who are working on network security. Now I want to switch to cyber security with other domain knowledge. I would like to know if I complete the CISSP, how far is my future? I mean, how my career is. That is first question. Second thing is, uh, whatever you are going to give us your lecture, can you please also tell us the chapter where we need to focus on with your lecture so that it will be easier and we can prepare ourselves. That's all from my side.
Cool. Thanks. Yes, Anand, I can see you raise your hand.
Rajiv, hi, this is Shani here. Quick question, Rajiv. See, I'm into a leadership role while in technology as a solution architect or lead solution architect to be precise, and I have team reported to me. Now I'm planning to add on the certificate. How would this help specifically in the leadership role? Is it possible for me to switch gears, move into different direction, or switch to cyber, so on and so forth? And if so, how do I initiate moving into that specific role and so on and so forth?
Hmm. Noted.
I mean, not a burning topic, but yeah, if you could help, guide, that would be helpful. And how would this program help me switch that? That's more important.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the question. So let me take this question first, guys, and then after I will come to any other question if you have. Otherwise, I will forget what you had asked. So Sadi, give me a minute. I'm coming back to you.
Yeah,
Just
okay,
okay.
okay.
Okay. So a couple of points which you had asked. First of all, the exam relevance, right? How is it going to help you on the examination? See, definitely this session is scheduled for your examination preparation only, right? And remember one thing, I always think in this way. And remember, this is my personal opinion. It could be different for you. So I'm not imposing my opinion on you. But yeah, this is my personal opinion that what exactly your objective is, accordingly, you need to work on. So if your objective is to pass the examination, so definitely for the passing the examination, the preparation should be going to be in a different way. Knowledge transfer is another thing. So definitely knowledge you require to pass the examination. But when it comes to the knowledge transfer, and if you're looking to target the domains which is in the CISSP for the knowledge transfer, you have to take this topic in a different way, right? So when I say different way, it means try to understand the concept, why this is going to happen, how this is going to happen, what's the process, what is the practice, all things are going to follow, right? Definitely you have the in-depth knowledge of all these component. Passing the exam is not going to be a big problem. It's going to be very easily going to happen there, right? But yeah, remember this session is scheduled for a limited time period there, right? It's not like for a month or for a 2 month or 3 month. I'm regularly delivering the session there. And again, this is basically the way market is actually right now working, which I definitely don't like as a trainer, you can say. I don't like this the way market works, but it's okay. I mean, we always have some priority, right? We always have our priority we have wanted to achieve in a limited time or period. So When it comes to exam relevance, definitely I'm going to discuss the topic as per the examination objective there, right? And in such case, remember, I'm not going to discuss each of the topic which is there in your book. Remember, I'm talking about your book. I'm not talking about the exam objective. So whatever given in the exam objective, definitely I'm going to discuss all those this. But whatever given there in the book, I'm not going to discuss all of that, which is unnecessarily going to create a huge pile up on your mind that you need to remember this, and this, which is not definitely going to help you. Remember, I'm targeting that after completing the session within a month or within 1.5 months, you will be doing the examination, and accordingly, I'm going to do the discussion. So if this session is going to take 1 month, it means after finishing the session, 1.5 month max you will be taking to prepare yourself for the examination, and then you will be doing the examination. Right. So yes, it is relevant for your examination, all the discussion which I will be doing, making sure that I'm aligned with the exam objective only. Right. So that is what one of the question. Second question, how exactly it's going to help you in the career? And if you are in the leadership role, okay, or you're leading some team, how exactly you can help your team, or how you can actually move into the cybersecurity. Remember, CISSP is one of the top level certification right now in the market. I usually divide this cyber certification in two sections. One is called as the testing certification. So when I say testing certification, I'm talking about the hands-on, like CEH, CPTS, OSCP. All these are basically the hands-on certification. It means you have to demonstrate your expertise in the form of doing there, right? It means you have to demonstrate that you are actually aware about and you can solve the real world problem in the organization. So that is the testing. Now, second thing, now whenever this testing is going on, so definitely you have a team who will mobilize into the ground, who will do the work, right? So as a leader, as a manager, as a team leader, what you will be doing, you are handling your team, right? So you have to know that what exactly the practice right now market is following, right? Remember, at the end of the day, when you are conducting the testing or when you're conducting the audit, you have to ensure that you are aware about the frameworks which is available in the market and how these frameworks can help your clients align with their security practices there. Because at the end of the day, they have to demonstrate their security posture to their customer, that they are well secured. And if they fail to do that, they will lose the customer trust. That is the first thing. And if they lose the customer trust, it means they're going to lose the money. They're going to lose the regulator confidence as well. It means they're going to fail the regulator audit. And because of that, there is a huge fine possible onto their organization. So all these things will come into the picture, right? So as a leader and as a person who is basically particularly leading a team or delivering certain things, you should be aware about the best practices, and all these things we will be discussing here as well, whether it is related to the risk management, whether it is related to the business continuity, whether it is related to the disaster recovery, all the different kind of best practices we will be discussing in this section there, which will definitely helping you to move into the cybersecurity career easily. Because see, remember, once you are aware about what is going on in the market, what is the best practice is getting followed, what tools and techniques in the real world getting utilized, right? Once you are comfortable on that, definitely from the leadership perspective, you are aware about what needs to be done, and that can help you to move into the cybersecurity practices very easily. See, how can you move into the cybersecurity? By gaining the knowledge, right? So that is what I will be doing. And for that, I'm not only letting you, I'm not going to transfer only the information which is coming from the book, but also which I had learned from the industry from that many year there. So remember, before this, I'm also in a leadership role only. I'm also managing a big team for my organization who used to conduct regular audit, regular testing. So I I had already gained some level of information that which is actually clients are requesting or they're looking for, and how to handle all these things there. So I will try to share all this experience as well with you all to ensure that you are also ready for the market. But definitely, I can't, give you here the guarantee that after the session you are going to be ready for the market. But at least 60 to 70%. I mean, if you're targeting any new role or might be you're targeting certain interviews, that can, I mean, my session can definitely help you there. But remember, if you're in the leadership and if you're trying to be an expert in the cybersecurity, I will also recommend you to jump into the tools and the techniques there. I mean, that is what I did, right? So before the leadership role, I was very, very much in the ground. I had done lots of groundwork. I have done lots of testing for my clients. I have done lots of audit for my clients. So I'm aware about that, what is actually right now going on before jumping to the leadership there. And that is definitely going to help you if you're aware about that, what tools, techniques, and the technologies and the processes which the organization is following there. So along with CISSP, remember, I will recommend you, if you're new in the cybersecurity, do certain certification, and not certification in terms of examination, but that try to learn it. If you require some documentation, you can ping me. I can always share because I have a huge number of documentation available with me, because I love reading. Frankly saying, in my own time, I love reading there, specifically the cybersecurity, any content which is coming from that, whether it is SOC, whether it is threat intelligence, whether it is firewall. In fact, I had done lots of work on the firewalls as well: Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Azure firewall, AWS firewall. So mostly I had not, left anything. Anything which is excites me, I always dive into that and work into that. Hope it helped. I mean, it give an answer for both of the question for all three of you.
Thank you.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Rajiv.
I had seen there was a raised hand, but I can't see right now. Can you, if you have any, still have the question, you can ask now. Yes, Adik.
Yeah. Thanks for that explanation earlier what the question asked from the other colleagues. I just want
Mhm.
information. Actually, basically, I'm working on the OT side. Okay, so IT will not in that coming in the picture at this moment. So how this certification can help me for in the OT side for this one? Because we have, you also know that we are merging the OT and IT, some of the couple of the networks using the for this one. So because I'm having the experience, but not fully from the IT side, because as I know, the CSSP is having the more concerns about the from IT perspective. So I'm having the some not knowledge of the full domains of the whatever we are covering in this CISSP, but how we
No,
can help me this one for this one.
I
Yeah.
will explain on that, but yeah, see, if you're in the OT, operational technology, and
Yeah.
I know that because definitely there's ICS, SCADA, and very many
Yes.
things
Yes.
are being utilized as a
Yeah.
lot nowadays, and definitely security is required there as well. You
Yeah.
might have
Correct.
heard lots of incident in the past as well. Like there was an attack on the one of the nuclear plant
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
So there's so many incident we had seen, which actually forced now the cybersecurity to be implemented everywhere. So even the OTs, see, although OT or such technology is basically always isolated from the main network, but it has been seen that even it is isolated, it is not actually helping us to secure them. And that's the reason the technology we are going to discuss here, like the encryption or the zero trust technology or any other thing, is actually definitely going to help you here. So moreover, it will help you to improve the security of your environment, whatever discussion we will be doing now onwards, because it is very much aligned on the same thing there. OT is just an extension of the IT only. The only thing is basically it is getting implemented in a different way. It's not very conventional method of the implementation, but moreover, the concept is same only. Okay.
So how this can be helping to cracking the exam of CSV? That is my question for this one. I can go for the reading books or
OT,
practicing on the questions or all these things. How for that one for this one?
yeah,
Yeah.
that is what that I will explain in few minutes there. Just give me a few
Yes.
minutes here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, Ashish.
Rajiv, just a session related question, right? So I'm guessing this is an interactive session that you have planned for us today. If we have any questions, what's the expectation? We just raise our hands, or we just type our questions in the chat. What's your
You can
preference?
do both of them. You can do both of them, but yeah, definitely if I'm discussing any topics there. So
Yeah.
in between, I may not be taking immediately your question, but once I'm done with that topic, I will take up your questions. You can raise hand, or in the meantime, if you feel that typing is easy, you can also type. So I will take it further while I'm doing the discussion.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Welcome. So so let me start the session here, guys. Since it is the first day of the session, definitely I'm not going to very much discuss everything in the first day only. Yes, Anil.
Rajiv, sorry,
Yeah,
Rajiv,
Anil.
sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
Basically, I am from an automotive electronics domain. Yeah, embedded. I've been working on cybersecurity activities for the past, say, since 2019. Yeah. Worked on certain implementations like FARA, vulnerability analysis, and so forth. So just wanted to know how relevant this certification would be to me. I mean, applying the concepts in the embedded world, or is it much beyond that? I just wanted to, hear from you. And yeah.
So remember this thing I told just a few minutes back only,
Mhm.
that cyber security is going to be applicable everywhere, no matter in which technology you are working right now. Right. And the reason behind is, so even if you're saying the embedded technology is there, right? Taking the simple examples of lot many devices which we are nowadays creating for simplifying the life of the people, right? So at the end of the day, they are actually connected to the network, right? I mean, it might be connected to your routers. See, I also utilize all these things a very lot. So if I'm correctly understanding you, you're talking about the embedded technology. So you're actually talking about all the functionalities nowadays we are using to make our life very much simpler. Take an example, even if the light bulb I'm using in today's case. Okay, so I'm right now living far from my house in a different country. But yes, I used to control my light bulbs from the internet there, right? Also, cameras are there around my house to do the monitoring properly, and very many other things which I used to do. Even my air conditions are connected to the internet, and fridge as well. Point here is, remember, attacker require one point, one loophole to log into your network. Nowadays, we are focusing very much on the security of our laptops, on the desktops, servers, etc. We already have lots of technology developed to secure that. So we have EDR solution, we have XDR solution, we have antiviruses, we have firewalls, a lot of these technologies are there. But when it comes to these embedded technologies there, you are actually creating this to make the life easier for us here. But at the end of the day, somehow we are not focusing on the security aspects here. And what attacker require one point to log into your network. Once they are in your network, either via your bulb or via your smart AC, if they have foothold of your network, from there they can do a lateral movement, which is, you can say, jumping from that device to the another device, right? They might not able to jump to your laptop directly because you already have implementation of EDR, XDR. So the moment when someone is trying to do, it will kill out. But are we doing the same sort of security there as well? So definitely cyber security actually require everywhere, because all what the attacker require one point to log into the network, and from there they can actually destroy everything in your organization, right? So definitely, I mean, from that angle, you need to understand the security is one of the important point. And from that angle, you need to understand that when we are talking about the security, we cannot eliminate any of the point which going to remain unprotected, and that will create the biggest loophole for any of the organization there. Hope it helped
Yeah.
to understand.
Okay, Rajiv. Yeah, just one point is it's basically in cars. There is an embedded controller. So the firmware actually resides in the cars and controls the cars. So that's what the domain is all about. But we are pretty much close. Yeah, it's basically Internet of Things is what you have quoted now. But
Yeah,
So
correct.
just wanted to know, yeah, so it is, yeah, there are a lot of concepts which are being used in that embedded domain, which is completely, we have a completely different network. We can call the control area network or a FlexRay based or, Ethernet based and all. But typically the entry happens through the infotainment systems, as you rightly said. Yeah. And then, once he gains the entry, then, yeah, he can cause havoc. Yeah. So, yeah, it's fine, Rajiv. Only I wanted to know the topics would definitely be of relevance to that kind of a domain as well, right, Rajiv?
But again, not very much on that particular side, but yes, we have a discussion around there as well.
Yeah, no issues. We'll get to know about that. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let me start with the discussion, guys, here now. So first of all, we will be understanding the CISSP exam objective and what CISSP basically trying you to follow, right? One important thing that IC Square, remember the certification is coming from ISC2, which is one of the not-for-profit organization. Okay, so IC2 stand for International Information System Security Certification Consortium. So IC2 means everything is 2 times. Huh? Okay, so it's one of the not-for-profit organization, and remember for each of the vendor. So you can say IEC2 is also one of the vendor only here. And like IEC2, lots of other vendors are there in the market. Like we have EC Council, we have SANS, we have Offensive Security, we have Hack the Box. There's so many vendors are there in the market. All of these vendors, one of their certification was one of the most popular one in the market. And for IEC2, it is CISSP. So IEC2 actually deals with other certifications as well. But CISSP is one of their most popular certification in the market, and it is actually from the very long time, and it is still one of the very prestigious certification to have with you. And the reason is somehow, CISSP, or you can say ISC, to maintain its reputation in the market there. And when I'm saying reputation in the market, if you see any other vendors, okay, like Easy Council or any of the vendors there who used to deliver the examination, there is a fair amount of chance of fraud there. Okay. See, I'm not saying that fraud chances are not there with ISC2 as well. Yes, it is there. But the good thing is that if they detect this, okay, they can ban the user there. It depends how they are actually taking this, but they ban, and not only ban, but their examination is also very strict. I mean, you cannot do the CISSP examination from your home. You have to travel to a nearest examination center to do this examination. Rest all the certifications is available online. You can do it from home, where the fraud chances are little higher. But with CISSP, it is very less. See, there's a chance that yes, it is possible from the center side as well. But again, I mean, I don't know how exactly it works there. But I had seen that over and all, it's basically very prestigious, and also they can maintain the overall reputation. So it's very much good to have certification with you there, and it's one of the highest level of certification in the security management. And when I say management, it means when you are working as a CISO, when you are working as a information security manager, when you are working as a team leader, this certification really going to help you to align your planning or your activity, how exactly you used to deliver in a day-to-day life in your infosec career there. Okay. Now, what IAC2 did for the CISSP certification, they had actually created 8 different knowledge area. Okay. You can say 8 different domain it had created. And when I'm using this term 8 different domains, so let me just take you to the IAC2 website itself for the sharing of this information. Okay, so this is the IAC2 website, which I'm right now taking it here. And if you go to the IAC2 website, definitely what we are looking for CISSP in English. Just opening their syllabus. So we know that what exactly we are covering here. So as per ISC2, there are total of 8 domains, which is basically trying to cover it up. So as you can see here, we have total of 8 different domains. First domain, we have security and risk management. Second domain, we have asset security. Now remember, the book which I'm going to follow here, or you can say I will recommend you to read for this examination, is coming from CyBEX publication. Okay. Now in the CyBEX book, there are total of 21 chapters given there. Okay. And that 21 chapters is basically aligned to this 8 domains. So if I'm taking as an example, in the CyBEX book, the first 4 chapter is dedicatedly available for security and risk management. Okay. Now, what is getting discussed in the security and risk management? So this is basically the initial concepts around the security, and then how do we assess and manage the risk in the organization? Okay. So assessment, validation, and then remediation of the risk as per the work which we are performing, right? So security and risk management is one of the knowledge area which what ISC2 want you to learn when you're working for any organization. It's very much important that whenever any issues you are able to find as a security professional, you must be aware that you cannot manage all the risk at the same time, right? You have to categorize those risks into the different category based on the severity level. Like some risk could be high, some risk could be medium, some risk could be low. So anything which is high, definitely you have to sort it out, right? And that is what the management wanted to understand. So whenever you are, let's take an example, when you're working on a project and if the board meetings is happening or might be the stereco meeting is happening. So that time you have to present that what we are doing and how we are doing. What management or what this stereco team is basically looking to see that how you are dealing with the most sensitive issues in the organization. So what they wanted to understand that had you categorized the risk into the different category, because they may not understand the technical jargons there, right? But they understand the figures very easily. They understand the colors very easily. So you have to design the colors like, okay, red, which is high risk. So they will simply see, okay, I can see 3 reds are there. It means 3 high risk is there. So how do we are dealing with this high risk there? Remember, at the end of the day, they are the one who is going to disperse the payment as well. They will allow that these payments can be allocated on this risk there. So you have to win their confidence, and for that, it's very much important that you should know how we should be categorizing the risk into different category based on the severity level, and then we can approach the remediation efforts there. Okay, so this first domain is on that. At the same time, in the same domain, we also have a discussion of business continuity planning. We also have some discussion on the laws and regulations. Now, regulations I'm not going to discuss as part of this domain. I will be discussing whenever the need of that particular topic will come. Like when talk about the regulations, one of the important regulations we have nowadays related to the privacy, right? So privacy is one of the important topic nowadays getting discussed everywhere, because that is also one of the driving factor of how you are managing the security, right? So we will discuss as on need basis there, and definitely it will come several time in the entire topic. Second domain, and remember there is a weightage also given here. So weightage basically defining that if you're going to face total of 150 questions, remember in the examination, there are total of 150 questions you will be facing, where the minimum number of questions you may face is 100. So this is going to be minimum, and 150 is going to be maximum. Now, what does it mean? So there is a possibility that the moment when you reach 100th question in the examination, you already achieved 70% to pass the examination. Okay. And the moment 70% you achieved, your examination is going to stop there only. You don't have to face other questions. Okay, but there is a possibility that till 100th or 150th, or let's assume that you reached to 125th question, you still didn't reached your 70% to pass the examination. So in this way, you can go up to 150. Now remember this strategy what ISC2 is using to preserve the integrity of the examination. So if you already passed in 100th question, no need to see the next 50 questions there. So if you can't see, you cannot discuss with any other, right? And that is how they think that they can actually preserve the integrity of the examination. So that is one of the strategy they utilize there, right? So if you are facing all the 150 question in your examination, there is a possibility that 16% of the question is going to be there from the first domain. Okay, so that is how they had given the weightage. Similarly, for asset security, which is focusing on the asset, or you can say the critical assets of the organization, 10% is the question you will be facing there. And similarly, we have all these 8 different knowledge area. Security architect and engineering is another knowledge area, which is discussing about the cryptography, security model, embedded security, etc. Even the physical security also. But I mean, physical security is very straightforward. I mean, why we are putting the gate with, I mean, lock with key and very many others. I mean, these things are actually discussed. Communication and network is security is another domain, which is talking about the importance of firewall, importance of few protocols, which should be implementing like DNP or DNS, etc. Then we have identity and access management, which is actually one of the biggest discussion area around all the organization, because when you are implementing the zero trust architecture, identity and access management is basically our new control plane, which is controlling the entire uh, you know security of the organization. So this is actually one of the not from the examination perspective one of the biggest domain, but yeah, in the real world it's actually one of the very money making sector, because if you're expert in Cellpoint, Okta, or Ping Federate, these are some of the topics which is very many organizations are looking for the experts there right now to the market. Security assessment and testing. This is one of the uh, topic where we are going to do certain hands-on as well. I mean, hands-on when I say I'm going to demonstrate certain hands to understand the thing, so you don't remember, you don't need to remember everything again and again. So typically from this section, communication, INT and security assessment, and even the software development as well, I will be doing certain hands-on example to understand the topic well. So you don't need to, memorize any theoretical topics there. So security assessment and testing, this is another domain. And then the security operations, which is talking about the incident handling, disaster recovery, security operational capabilities of the organization, etc. So all of these domains has been given a weightage, and all of these topics are very much interesting when you go and read it there, right? But again, don't take it right now from the examination point of view, but just take curiosity and try to learn something which is going to help you to understand new things, and definitely based on that you can do the examination very easily as well. So these are the domains. We have 8 different domain, although the weightage already given there, but I always recommend that first domain is basically your key domain. And the reason behind it is not only because of the weightage, but also because once you know that how do we categorize the incident and how do we select our priority, that will help you to implement the control properly. It means for the other domains, security and risk management is going to be very much valuable from the examination perspective, because that will give you the base to think how to approach any of the problem in the organization. Okay, so this is about the domain weightage. Now coming to the examination, so as I told, that minimum number of questions you will be facing is 100 and maximum is going to be up to 150. Examination duration is right now 3 hours. It may increase in the future, but right now definitely there is no indication that this examination duration may increase. Typically the questions are going to be MCQ, but some innovative items may come up whether it is mix and match or might be drag and drop. So such questions can come, but that is not going to be so much. It's so maximum going to be 1, 2, or maximum 3 questions are going to be like this. You have to secure 70% to pass the examination, and the examination language is available in, apart from English, Chinese, German, Japanese, Spanish. Now, is it going to make any difference if I'm going to do the examination in any another language? No. Why? Previously it was. I mean, previously, if you were doing examination in Chinese language or German language, the total number of questions you may face up to 250, and the duration will be 6 hours. But now IEC2 had made it uniform. It means no matter in which language you are doing, the examination pattern is going to be same, and The number of questions are also going to be same. Now, one important thing which you can see here, they had pointed is CAT-based examination. Okay, so it is a CAT-based examination. So what does it mean when I say CAT-based? CAT-based means the difficulty will be getting adjusted based on your previous response. Okay, take an example. You face the first question. That was an easy question, and you given the answer. Okay, so if you had given the right answer, then the next question you will be facing is going to be slightly difficult as compared to the previous one. But let's assume that first question you had marked it wrong. Then the next question you will be facing again a slightly either easier or with the same level. Okay. So here the difficulty level of the questions can adjust in a real time. And that's the reason it is said it is a CAT-based examination. So how examination is going to decide it is going to be easy or hard? So typically what IC2 did, they had created the question of huge number of question pool and categorized the question into the easy, medium, and hard. Right. And accordingly, this will, fluctuate in your examination there. Okay. So this is about the CAT. Yes, Ramesh, I can see you unmuted yourself. Can you ask?
Rajiv, is there any negative marking is there in this exam?
No,
Only
there is no negative mark.
or just a multiple choice questions only?
Yes, yes, there is no
Okay,
any negative. Yeah,
okay. Thanks, Rajiv.
welcome. So this is about the examination, guys. So once you successfully pass the examination, okay. So once you successfully pass the examination, so let's assume that you sit in the examination, you pass the examination. So when you're trying to achieve the CISSP certification, remember our goal here is to be CISSP certified. Certified Information System Security Professional Certified, CISSP certified. For that, there are two criteria. First, you need to pass the examination. Okay, so this is the first criteria. And after passing the examination, you have to prove that you have the necessary experience in any two of the domain out of 8. So we had just seen that there are total of 8 knowledge area it is having. Pick any two of the domain which you feel that you can prove that you have the necessary experience. Take an example. Let's assume that I have experience in IAM and I also have experience in network security, right? So this is the two domain I'm going to pick to endorse myself. Now, what do you mean by when I say endorsement? Endorsement means proving that you have necessary experience, working experience in that domain area. Now that IEC2 wanted to see because after getting the certification, you will be serving the organization. So they just wanted to endorse only those guys who is having certain experience in that area, and then only you will be getting the certification. So you have to show the paid experience in any two of the domain here. Okay, and how can you do that? So for this endorsement, you are going to pick any ISC2 certified professional who is having their certification in good standing. I mean, it is still valid. And he's the member of ISC2 as well. So if you provide all your information, like might be you will take your CV, upload it into the ISC2 website, and from there it will go to that member. Okay. Once that it will go to the member will verify every information and submit to the IC2 that these informations are correct. And based on that, IC2 will certify you, right? Generally, the moment when you submit this information, generally take 5 to 7 business day to get your certification. So the entire process may take up to 5 to 7 business day even after passing the examination to get your certification, right? So this is what we have. Yes. Now the question I can see, she is having, does CISSP lapse? Yes, it actually lapse. So what is happening? The CISSP is valid for a 3-year by default. Okay. So because it is valid for 3-year only, it means for the 3-year, you are, I mean, definitely you can show industry that you are already certified, but after 3 years, it may not be valid. But if you follow two conditions, it is still going to be valid. First condition is that you have to pay the annual maintenance fee. So remember, your certification is valid for 3 years by default. Now, if you wanted to renew your certification, first thing you have to do is to pay the annual maintenance fee, which is $135 per year. Okay, so for the 3-year cycle, so let's suppose you certified in 2025. So for 2025, you have to pay the fee. Then for 2026 also you have to pay the fee, and 27 also you have to pay the fee. So this is the first criteria, which is 135 into 3. Okay. Second criteria is that you have to earn the continuation of professional educational points, CP points. Now, what is this? So CP points, the total of 120 CP is required. Okay, so either you can submit 40 CP per year, or 100 all the 120 CP at the same year. It's totally on you there. Frankly saying, practically saying that they are saying that to submit 40 per year, but I had not seen any difference in submitting, because I used to do typically all the CP at the same time. But it's totally on you there, uh, whatever comfortable way for you. So once you once you satisfy both of these requirements, okay, your certificate will be automatically get renewed for the next 3 year as well. And the same process you have to follow for the other years as well to get you certified there. So if you don't want to do the examination again, you have to follow this process there. Yes, Ramesh, you have a question.
So, Rajiv, you mentioned one is the pass the exam. So one is actually we needed 2 domains experience. You mentioned that. So how?
Yeah.
Uh, so I have a 5+ and 7+ of years of experience, but how they will come to know you have only experience on in this particular domain? So as you like uploading in the resume, we mentioned that the designation. So we can't upload into the what are all responsibility we worked on. So how they will come to know? So experience, okay, we have that we will come to know. So one of the guy he asked for he has experience in the leadership, but he doesn't have experience in the this domains. But how IS2 will come to know that?
See, so typically what will happen, IC2 is going to provide you one portal, and in that portal you have to fit all the information. So after uploading your CV, you also have to mention that you worked in, let's suppose, organization one as a CISO. So as a CISO, what was your work responsibility? So you have to provide this a summary information of that, and then you have to tell that which domain that work responsibilities aligned with. So you have to notify this into that particular submission, right? So don't worry, they are going to provide you all the field so you can
Okay,
accordingly.
okay, I understand. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Rajiv.
Okay, okay. So this is the way. So what we discussed just is basically how do we get the certification, and then how do we maintain the certification, right? So that is the two things. Now coming to, so let me know if there's any question you all have. So this is what, from the examination point of view, I wanted to discuss. If no any question, we can jump on the topic then. Okay, so we can see there is no any question. So let's move on then. So the first domain we will be discussing here is on to the security and risk management. Okay, and when talk about the security and risk management, remember there are typically 4 topic we have in this discussion. One is the basics of security we will be discussing, right? Which is important. I can see that might be some of you is not from the security background, so for you it is going to helpful. And then we will be discussing on some of the risk management concept. And then we'll move forward accordingly onto the BCP. We'll jump onto the BCP. Now let me tell you one of my way of doing the discussion. So after this first domain, which is security and risk management, I will be jumping directly to the domain number 7. And let me tell you why exactly this jumping I will be doing. Sorry. Because the domain number 7 is basically onto the incident section. So how I used to describe this topic is that if you're not able to manage incident in the organization, Okay, then it will convert into disaster. Okay, and in thus such case, then you have to adopt the disaster recovery and business continuity cases there. I mean, you should have these plans to tackle the disaster within the organization. So this incident and disaster topic is basically discussed in the domain number 7. So the reason behind the jumping is that you are able to connect the topics instead of jumping from 1 to 2, where we don't face or correlate this. And definitely if you can do the correlation, it will help you to remember the topic easily there, right? So that is how we will move on. So remember, from the first domain, I will be then jumping onto the domain number 7. And after that, the topics are going to be sequential. Yeah. So let's start our discussion first onto the domain number first, which is on the security and risk management. See, it's a basics of security. So the first question which we need to tackle here is what is security, and from there also what is information security. Okay, and then what's the benefit of all these technologies for the organization there. So first thing is, what is security for us here and why exactly it is needed? See, I know that this is one of the fundamental question, and I hope I'm very much sure that most of you are aware about what is security there. But just to kick start the overall discussion, I'm going to do this discussion here. So the first thing is, what exactly is the security? See, although that multiple definition we can give it there. Okay, but here I'm not looking at the definition there. And again, remember, don't bother about the definition. That is not important for the examination side. Important thing is basically you should know that what these concepts are talking about. So when I talk about the security, on a very simple note, security is all about protecting your assets from any sort of harm, right? See, at what is happening at the end of the day, there is an organization, okay, and that organization is having a certain goal to achieve, right? See, some organizations are there in the market to earn the money. Some organizations are there which is to do welfare for the society. So they have a certain goal or objective which they wanted to achieve. So as an organization, first we need to understand what's my goal, what's my objective. Once I have understanding of the same, then I can look for the different sort of issues which I'm actually facing. So what will happen once we decided what is the goal? Now, based on the goal, then you're looking for the relevant tools, techniques, or the processes which you have to implement. Let's use a term here, asset. So term here, asset, is basically anything which is valuable for the organization to achieve their goal. So we can define asset, anything which is helping to achieve the goal of the organization, that is asset for us here. Right. So when you talk about the goal, we have a certain outcome to achieve. Let's suppose in next 3 years, I wanted to become number one in the market, or I want my organization to be number one in the market there. Now for that, I may need several assets. And remember, when I'm using this term asset, is not only about the hardwares, let's suppose server, firewall, etc. I'm also talking about the people which you are procuring. That is also your key asset. The unique process which you are following, right? A unique plan which you have there. So all this basically your critical asset. Anything which is helping you to achieve the goal, that's your asset. So at the end of the day, why we are looking for a security? Because if this asset is compromised or having any sort of issues, your goal will be impacted, right? I mean, take an example, you hired one database administrator, but that database administrator had been procured by your competitors there, considering the expertise of that particular user. So that they had asked, hey, I can give you a double the package, whatever your organization is offering you. Come work with us here, right? See, I'm just giving one example, but definitely from the security point of view, we have lots of issues there. Like, I mean, take an example, your asset, like your server, you're running an e-commerce website, and that e-commerce website is under the attack. Now, because that website is down, your customers are not able to place the order. And because of that, ultimately, your goal will be impacted there, right? So security, why we require, because we wanted to protect something valuable from any sort of loss or harm or any sort of unauthorized access, and depending on the context, in which context we are actually working with. Because security is not only about the logical security issues, like some DOS attack is going on or malware attack is going on. It could be physical security. So security at the end of the day, security, and we have to implement control from the different angle. Okay. So security is basically something which is helping you to protect from any sort of loss there. Okay. Now, within information security, the topic which is important here for the examination side is information security. So within security, we have then information security is basically one of the subset of security. In fact, you can say here, information security. And I hope most of us aware about that information is basically one of the critical asset of any organization, specifically in today's era. Those who is having correct information can be the number one in the market. Those who is having incorrect information, may not able to make the decision properly, and in such case they can't be. So I'm not talking about the information which is correct or incorrect. I'm talking about if you have information, you have to provide security to that information there. That information could be your customer information. If it is leaked or compromised, your organization is going to face a huge damage, right? Why? Because that can be now that information can be utilized by your competitors to gain access of your customers, right? So I'm just giving one example, but definitely information could be anything. Like take an example, I have my personal information. I have personal, some of my, snapshots or the pictures which belongs to mine and my family there. If it is compromised, definitely it is going to create a mental damage to myself or to my family as well there. Again, I don't have to actually explain you that if your information, personal information is compromised, how much is going to be impact on you there, right? So, and similarly, the organization is also having their own information, which they have to protect because that is the enabler for their business, right? If it is compromised, it's a huge damage to them as well. So information security is the practice of protecting information, whether it is in a digital format or in a physical format, whether it is kept in your storage or whether it is moving from one point to another. What we are looking for, that with the help of information security, we can ensure that this digital or physical information is protected from unauthorized access, which is going to help us prevent any sort of disclosure, okay, any sort of disruption, and any sort of what you say modification as well. See, I'm just using some phrases here, but remember, this is not important to memorize anything. Just the concept reference is enough. Nothing from the definition side we have to remember. So remember, information security is all about to protecting our information, no matter in which format it is actually available. So when we're talking about the information security, remember from the different angle we have to do the protection. So how we are talking about this, it depends what sort of issues you are facing. So first thing you have to understand that if this asset, so as an example, we can take here information. So asset example, one of the example of the asset is your information, organization information. right? What we have to do, we have to understand first of all that what sort of issues from the information security perspective it will come up. So if you check it at the broad level, so some of the issues at the information you are going to face, okay, which is typically some certain phrases you can also use, that this information is vulnerable for disclosure. So when I say disclosure, it means unauthorized access over this information may be possible. And if that unauthorized access is possible, this information is disclosed to the unauthorized people and they can utilize this information against you. So one of the issue we are facing is the disclosure. Another issue you are going to face here, that information can be altered, okay, without your consent. It can be modified, and if this information is modified, it is no longer for your use available. Okay, it is no longer for your use available. See, when I say alteration, it means this information is altered or changed without proper authorization. This changed information definitely is not going to help you for the business, right? So we wanted to preserve the integrity of the information as well. And that's the reason we need to put control around the alteration, unauthorized alteration. Authorized alteration is authorized changes is okay, but unauthorized alteration is not okay for the business. So remember, because our information may be vulnerable for disclosure or may be vulnerable for alteration, okay, and at the same time, our information could be also vulnerable for destruction. So this is the third pointer, that is called destruction. So you can remember it using simple term that is called DAD. So our information is vulnerable from DAD, right? And that's the reason, to ensure that it remains secure, we have to implement CIA. So to prevent disclosure, you will be implementing the confidentiality. Okay. So confidentiality is basically making sure that we are putting necessary control to prevent any sort of disclosure. What sort of control? Like you're putting the access control. Access control ensure that only authorized people can access this information, right? So when I'm talking about the confidentiality, we are putting those control which can help us to prevent the disclosure. Similarly, integrity related control, we are putting control which can prevent any sort of alteration. And even if the alteration is happening, we can get notified, right? Similarly, we have a control like availability. We can ensure that we are putting controls like high availability or load balancer. So any sort of control which is going to prevent the destructive actions over my assets. Now we'll be explaining more on that particular part in our upcoming section. So for now, understand, because our information or asset is vulnerable for that, we are putting the controls in the form of CIA. So CIA is basically the basic security measures you should be thinking on your asset there and implementing it definitely. But is IAC2 is only focusing on CIA? No. Remember, in the new syllabus, I mean in the 10th edition of the CyBEX book, or in the latest version of the IAC2 CBK, Common Body of Knowledge, they had added two more component in security. So generally, if you'll see any other book, they had only mentioned that basic security controls which should be implemented against your asset is CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, but IAC2 had added two more component. One is called as authentication, and the another is called as non-repudiation. Okay, now to memorize this, I mean, from the examination perspective, I will recommend you to remember these two more component as well. So these are the secure, basic security fundamental component we have to adapt to increase the security for our asset. So we can prevent any sort of disclosure, alteration, and description. I will be coming on the authenticity and non-repudiation, but let me explain in a different way here. See, when you're trying to achieve CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and why we are looking for, understand in this way, your asset, which we are trying to protect, it could be your e-commerce website or your database server or anything which you wanted to protect. At the end of the day, what is happening? This asset may be having some sort of issue. You can use a term vulnerability. Remember, I'm saying maybe. There could be no any vulnerability, right? So there is a possibility that asset may have certain vulnerability. Now, this vulnerability could be inherent vulnerability. Inherent means which is coming because the kind of product you are using. Take an example, you are using a very older application. Okay, so that because that application is old and also it is working on some old framework, so it is having some known bugs or known vulnerability which can be exploited easily. Okay, take an example, you are still using Windows XP. XP is having lots of inherent vulnerability, lots of known issues there. So if you are using this, that is inherently vulnerable. Okay, it means it can be exploited very easily. But the another set of vulnerability could be the configurational vulnerability. I mean, you have operating system. Take an example, you have Windows, but that Windows vulnerability, Windows don't have any firewall enabled right now. You have disabled it. So that is called as the configurational vulnerability. Configuration wise, it is not secure. Okay, so because that issue is there in your asset, so there is a complete possibility that an attacker or a bad guy can take benefit of that vulnerability and they take control of your asset. So typically for taking control of this vulnerability, or you can say to take the benefit of this vulnerability, there is a certain code they will develop, which is called as exploit. Okay, so exploit is basically what is a piece of code which can be written in any language. It depends on what's the expertise of the attacker, but it's a piece of code which will take benefit of the vulnerability, or you can say the issue, and from that vulnerability they can take control of your asset. If they can take control of your asset, if because they are bad guy, definitely they can disrupt, and because of that your goal will be impacted. Okay, now with the help of CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, you are making sure that if this is going to happen in the future, is it because of inherent or known bug? With the help of CIA, you will try to fix that, right? How can you do that? I'm coming on that. So as I told, that exploit is just a piece of code which is taking benefit of that vulnerability and taking control of the asset. Now, who is going to create this exploit? So remember, this exploit, in a general term, we can use a term threat. So threat is, as an example of threat is exploit. So attacker will create a threat which will take benefit of your vulnerability, and from there it will compromise your asset. Now, who is creating this threat? So anyone who is getting benefited of this threat. So typically it is called a threat actor. So any person or process who is getting benefited because of the threat exploitation, that is called a threat actor. So it could be a person, it could be a process, it could be anything. All right, so it will work like this. As an attacker, I have a motive that if I'm going to attack on your asset, I will be getting some financial benefit. So as a threat actor, I will be creating a threat. That threat will take benefit of vulnerability, and from there able to compromise your asset. Okay, so this is how they are actually connected with each other. What is important for us to understand that when you are implementing the principle of CIA, which is making sure that if this exploit is going to be successful, I'm making sure that with the help of confidentiality control, I'm avoiding that threat actor to get access of any sort of information. So if I'm putting the proper access control, which can be with the help of encryption as well, even if they can access my information, they can't understand anything because it is encrypted. It is scrambled there. Yes. So threat is basically, yes, threat is basically high level term. Exploit is one of the example of that. So threat is basically something which is creating an issue for you there. So exploit is the example of threat, you can say here. Okay, so now because we understood what exactly the relationship is, so what I told that if I wanted to secure my asset, what I will do, I will implement the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But the point is, how can we implement the CIA? So for that only, we are taking the help of IEEE. Okay, so what is this IEEE is? See, I stand for identification. Anyone who is coming to access your information, like your asset, first you have to validate whether they are basically the trusted user or not. So identification is basically one of the component which will ensure that any subject who is coming to access my asset, it is properly, I mean, it is only coming from the trusted repository. Okay, trusted repository could be your on-prem AD, Active Directory environment, or a particular repository where you're creating the user. So identification is all about making sure that you're able to identify the user. Second component we have, whenever an identity is coming, subject is coming, you have to validate it is the same or not. I mean, take an example. If Sam is trying to log in your environment, how do you know it is Sam? On behalf of Sam might be John is trying to log in. So that is where the authentication will come. So authentication is making sure that I'm able to verify the identity before I'm going to grant any sort of access. So authentication like password. Password you are using because you wanted to verify the subject. Is it the same subject or someone else on behalf of that subject is trying to log in? Authentication is helping you to verify that identity. Okay. Then we have next A, which is called as authorization. See, after user is authenticated, you have to grant the necessary privilege only to that user. Authorization will verify whether the user is authorized to access a certain information or not. And that is where the ACL or other controls will work. ACL will simply check, are you authorized to access this information? Take an example, one of the sensitive financial information you have on the system. You first wanted to see, does this user is authorized to access this information? If it is, okay, you can access it. Otherwise, access denied. Right. So that is where the authorization will come. And then you also wanted to audit their activity. You wanted to check what they are doing while they are onto the system. So are we going to audit everything? It depends on the business use cases, remember. So there is a possibility that you can check all the activity that user is doing on the system. But is it actually important? Because at the end of the day, what will happen when you're doing the audit, a huge number of information will be collected on your system. Okay. If you don't configure audit properly, unnecessary data you are storing in your system, which is going to add extra cost in your environment, like cost of storing all these audit log, analyzing that audit log is extra work, right? So you wanted to avoid this. So you have to define strategically that what information I need to monitor so I can get to know about the issue or incident immediately. So you have to configure the audit properly. But audit is all about monitoring what the user is doing and taking action appropriately if any unauthorized actions are detected. So we'll discuss all these things more in depth in our incident section. But what I told here, to support CIA, we are implementing the controls IEEE. So if the component which I told that IAC to added is authentication, it means verifying the identity of the user. And then there is one more component that is called non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means if an action is conducted by a user or a process, and if they refuse it, you should have something to prove that it is actually conducted by that user only. So non-repudiation is all about a control which we are implementing for repudiation attack, where subject is denying from the action what they had conducted. So if you have the audit log, you are able to verify whether it is actually conducted by the same user or not. So non-repudiation is another control you have looked for. So from the examination point of view, remember the basic security measures we are looking for within the organization from the ISC2 point of view is the confidentiality, integrity, availability, authenticity, and non-repudiation. So these are the fundamental component what as a security professional you should be thinking on when you're trying to create a strategy. Now, so these are the fundamental concept. Now let's jump a little bit on some concepts of the risk. Okay, so there is a term we are using around the information security, and it is not only for the information security, even in our day-to-day activity also risk is basically one of the very important component we have. So what's exactly the risk is? So based on the discussion what we did so far, we can simply define risk is the possibility of an event and negative consequences because of that event. So remember this definition actually had given there by Isaka. So as per Isaka, risk is defined as the possibility of an event. What kind of event? Like take an example. One of the user login event detected. Okay. Now there is a complete possibility that is a normal activity for you because every day users are logging into the system. So that's a normal activity. But because of that event, if there is any negative consequences to your organization or to your system, that is where the risk will come into the picture, right? So remember, as per ISC 2 or in the information system, risk is always treated as a negative activity. You see, if you're learning the topics like PMP and etc., you might have seen risk can be treated positive as well. Means if you don't take risk, you will not get any reward. But in information security, risk is always a negative term. So whenever this term is coming in information security or in IC2, always think that something bad is happening. So risk is defined as a possibility of an event and negative consequences because of that event. Okay, like an example, one event happened, like one file executed on your system. Now, because of that file execution, if your other files got encrypted, which you can't see after that, this is a negative issue, right? So one event, so that file execution could be a malware. And because of that, your other files got encrypted. So this is basically a ransomware attack. So because of that, what will happen? Your files encrypted and now your availability is impacted. See, so Daniel, I just explained it in the CIA that IEEE is basically one of the components just to understand what's the benefit of authentication and non-repudiation. But as per IAC2, there are 5 security principles they are following: CIA and authentication and non-repudiation, right? Just to show you the connection that how this authentication and non-repudiation I explain in a different way. So you can remember it instead of remembering as a different component, right? So authentication is basically, so this first A I told is authentication. It means proving who the user is. Okay. Then authorization to check whether you are authorized. It means you have necessary permission to access the information. And then last A is the audit, right? So third A here is the audit. But yeah, definitely as per IAC 2, this third A they had not considered as one of the basic security principle. But just to explain, I explain in a different way that to support CIA, we are implementing what IEEE there, which is a control. In fact, authentication non-repudiation is basically a control only. But again, every vendor is basically having their own way of doing the discussion. So in this way, you are able to memorize it. At the end of the day, their strategy is also same, that if you implement authentication, you can preserve the confidentiality, right? Or integrity or availability. I hope you got the point. So coming to the point which I was discussing, risk. So as I told, the risk is basically defined as the possibility of an event and negative consequences because of that. As an example given, ransomware attack. If ransomware is executed on your system, so that execution is not a problem. But if because of that execution, your files got encrypted, and because of that encryption, you cannot access it. So your availability is suffered. And that is where the negative consequences coming. Okay. You can also define risk as a combination of vulnerability and threat, because risk will only come if both are present, right? I mean, take an example. If I need to eliminate the risk, so what I can do? Either I'm going to fix the vulnerability. So vulnerability could be like the firewall is off, right? So if I can fix that firewall issue, I mean, if I'm going to enable the firewall, we've done it. See, why threat execution is possible? Because if the firewall was disabled, if I enable the firewall, now threat execution chances are not, right? So either you can fix the vulnerability or you can fix the threat. How can you fix the threat? So for fixing the threat, then you are going to implement certain control, right? See, vulnerability could be like, take an example, your system is unpatched. So when you downloaded the latest patch and installed it on the system, that vulnerability is fixed, right? And to so let's suppose that there is no any patch available for your system. So in such case, what you will do? So in such case, you will implement a control. So if attacker is trying to attack on your system, that can be blocked by the control itself, right? So either so if I'm trying to eliminate the risk, what I will do, either I'm going to fix the vulnerability or I'm going to fix the threat. But if both are present, then only risk is available. One more factor we are considering whenever we are counting this risk here, and that is called as impact. Okay. Now, why impact is considered here? Remember, this impact will decide how soon you will be implementing the control. It means impact typically decides the severity level of the risk. If the impact is high, it means control needs to be expedited, implemented immediately there. But if the risk is low, controls can wait, right? I mean, you may not have that much of budget in the organization to procure the control. So you can actually wait for some time in such cases. So we always have to think when the controls can be implemented, and for that we have to always look for what's the impact over and all. So impact will decide the severity level of the issue, and that severity level will define how soon the controls can be implemented there. So if I want to secure my asset, you need to understand what is the risk, right? It means we need to understand that what activity is bringing the risk in the environment. And accordingly, you are implementing the control. If I know what is risk, it's very much important to understand what is the impact. We need to do the risk analysis. So we just understood what's the risk is. Okay, so risk is the possibility of an event and negative consequences because of that. But to ensure that we are implementing the control appropriately, it means aligned with the impact, we need to do the analysis. So this is called as risk analysis or risk assessment. So what's this risk assessment or risk analysis is? Let's understand this. See, when you're talking about the risk analysis, so it's all about doing the certain calculation to understand what's the impact on the organization if it is going to occur. Okay. So there are two types of risk analysis options we have typically, which ISC2 wants you to focus, although we have other methods as well. But the two method they want you to understand. One of them is called as qualitative analysis method, where we are using the subjective calculation for doing the analysis. So when I say qualitative, so one of the approach is qualitative risk analysis. See, when the asset which you are trying to secure is non-tangible, one simple example you can take is the organization reputation. Organization reputation is also one of the asset, right? So let's assume because of a threat, your organization reputation is at risk. So how can you assign a monetary value there? Monetary value means a particular dollar figure or certain money figure to calculate the impact. So typically, how do you calculate the impact? Right? By assigning certain value. So if this thing I will do, let's take an example, if I'm investing the money in the share market. So if I'm going to invest, let's assume $1,000, and if market crash, I'm going to lose that $1,000. So based on that, I know that what's the impact is. And accordingly, I will decide how much money I should invest. So even if it is lost, it may not create a huge impact on me there. But when it comes to the organization reputation, how do we calculate this monetary value? Because you can't decide. I mean, take an example, some attackers hack the bank server, right? And it is known to now to the public, right? In such case, how do you calculate the impact? Because there is a possibility that after getting this information, those customers had closed their account from the bank. They got the money and closed the bank account. So that definitely that loss you faced. But now those customers are also propagating this information to their known users that, hey, don't open bank account on that bank because the security is too weak. Anyone can hack. And because of that, what they will do, those customers will make a perception that this bank is always insecure. So we don't have to invest anything in the particular bank there. So you can't calculate the exact value of the loss. And in such case, qualitative analysis is going to be okay. Also, this qualitative analysis is very easy to understand because they are typically using some subjective value like high, medium, low, something like this, which is very easy to understand specifically for the senior management who don't wanted to see any figures, wanted to just see some, some colors or some, uh, PowerPoint slide, which is actually indicating with the help of pie chart or any other attractive chart to let them know that, okay, what's the impact is over and all. Right. So at the end of the day, this qualitative analysis basically when you don't have the correct number, you have some non-tangible assets, and also when you want your audience to understand this very easily. So also it depends on whom you're presenting. Okay. So one simple examples we can take to understand this qualitative analysis on from the real world analogy there. Take an example that as a user, so one use cases I'm taking here, as a user, I wanted to purchase a car insurance. Okay. I wanted to purchase a car insurance. So scenario here is you're considering or you're thinking whether to purchase some additional insurance for your newly purchased car. Okay, so that's the scenario. So first thing you have to identify if I'm not going to purchase the insurance, what is going to happen? It means we are trying to think about the worst cases. So scenario you're trying to consider to purchase a car insurance. So you identify some threat. So first you identified certain threat here. So threat could be that my car going to face theft issue. Someone's going to steal my car there. Okay. Second, the risk of accident will be there or damage will be there because of some natural disaster or something else. So this is what the threat is. Okay. The next thing we have to do is to understand that if this is going to happen, I mean, if these threats are going to realize, what is the impact? So we need to first check what is the likelihood. It means what is the probability of this? So based on where you live, so there is a possibility that you may be living in a highly theft urban area. Okay, so in such case, the theft of car might be rated as either medium or high. Take an example, we are rating as a medium because the location where I'm living, the theft of the car is possible. Okay, it could be high as well, depends on the overall scenario what you are facing right now. Then after that, you are going to check what is the impact if it is going to happen. Okay, so if the car is stolen or damaged, it could lead to a large financial loss since you would have to replace or repair the car. So in such case, the impact is going to be high, right? Until unless we have a huge money with us, it means even if it is stolen, we can purchase a new car, right? But in most of the cases, we can say we don't main heart. I mean, depends on the person to person, definitely. So impact here is like, here we are calculating the overall first, the likelihood, what is the chances, and then the impact, right? Now, based on that, now I need to decide, now I'm going to prioritize the risk. Even though the likelihood is medium, but because the impact is high, so you consider the risk is as a high priority. In fact, typically what you will see in a qualitative analysis, typically organizations are using some 3x3 metric or 4x4 metric there. It depends on the organization to organization there. But yeah, they may be using some 3x3 or 4x4 metric there. Let me show you with the help of a certain picture here. So take the example of this picture. Okay, so here we are using 4x4 metric. So in this 4x4 metric, we are having two things. First, severity, it means the impact. And the second thing we have is the probability, it means likelihood. So if you're considering this car example, so likelihood is what? Medium. Take an example, this is probable, which is right. And then the impact. So impact could be, let's assume, the critical. High, we can consider as a critical here. So here the different terms are being utilized, but it's okay. So now where they are dissecting each other, they are dissecting each other here. So the overall impact is going to be serious, right? Now, if this is something which is creating a issue for you, then you will consider to buy a extra what? So based on that, we need to decide whether to purchase the insurance or not, because the overall impact is serious on me there. And definitely that will help me to decide the things there. So that is one simple example to understand how typically the qualitative analysis works. So as you can see here, we are not using certain dollar figure or something. We're just making sure that with the help of some probable activities and the overall impact will decide overall impact on the organization, and then we'll decide whether to implement the control or not. Yes, Ashwarya, your question.
Uh, Sorry, sir. Have you shared your screen or because I can't see anything? I don't know about others.
Hey, I am sharing, my whiteboard is shared when I'm writing everything.
Uh-huh. I'm
We can
really
see the screen, Aishwarya.
okay, fine.
Visible.
Let me
It's fully
rejoin.
visible. Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
rejoin
yeah.
then.
Okay, so this is how the qualitative analysis works, right? Another thing, similarly, we can, I mean, let's take one more example here to understand it, although the same kind of thing is there only. So another example we can take here, take an example, you're trying to plan a family vacation. So this is the second example for the same. You're trying to plan a family vacation. Now for the family vacation, so scenario here is that you are planning a family vacation and wanted to assess the risk of going to a specific destination, specifically during the hurricane season, right? Now you are considering whether to go or not. So first you need to identify the potential risk. So potential risk is that hurricane come up because the season we are going on, that is vulnerable for. So hurricane might be going to disrupt the trip. or because of that, the flight cancellation or delay chances are there. So the another risk you are going to face, that flight may be getting cancelled or can be delayed there. So that is these are some of the potential risk. Now we need to assess the impact and likelihood, right? So first of all, what are the chances? So because we are going in the season where the hurricane time is there, it means chances are medium to high. Let's consider this. Likelihood is higher because the season is the same. Okay. Now, because of that, what is going to be impact? So the impact would be high, as it either going to ruin your entire vacation, or because of that hurricane, the chances of any sort of loss as well. Potential safety risk is also there. Okay. So these are the impact. So now you're going to prioritize, even though because there is it could be medium or high risk. Okay. So again, we can actually consider here critical, and then let's assume frequent, which is going to consider another 5. So again, where they're dissecting on the high here. So even though there is a high chance of hurricane, the impact is high also. So this is considered as a high risk situation. Then you're going to make a decision that either I'm going to choose a different travel destination or I'm going to purchase a travel insurance. So it can cover the potential losses which can happen because of this activity there. So these are some of the examples which I had taken to understand the qualitative analysis. So in the qualitative analysis, what we are taking the different data. Remember that these data may not be very accurate. So in such case, we can say that qualitative analysis may not be the accurate analysis for making the decision, but is still going to be a good information to decide immediately about what to do. Okay. Yes, Anand.
Yeah. Sorry, quick question on this risk assessment metrics. How do you define, whether the risk is high or medium, looking at likelihood and impact? If my likelihood is low and my impact is high, what is the overall severity of the risk? Would that be
If the
low multiplied by high? Where will that land? How
so
through this table?
if the likelihood is low, let's take an example, we are considering the low as a marginal. And if the impact is high, take an example, probable. So here it is dissecting this under the serious, right? So based on that, we can consider this risk as one of the serious risk. Remember, you are going to decide if the risk is going to be low, I'm not going to do anything. If the risk is going to be medium, I'm going to do the things, but not immediately because I don't have the funds available. So that fund which I have right now, I will be using only in an emergency situation. So the fund which I have, I will use, but in a later stage. Okay. But if the risk is high, I may implement the solution, might be in 15 to 30 day of working period. And if the risk is extremely high, I will immediately ask the change approval board to approve the change and do the implementation. So this is something which is going to falls under the exception, right? So here, remember these are basically the criteria which organization in their overall strategy will decide. These are some of the framework they will always decide to make sure that if the risk is low, okay, I'm not going to do anything. If the risk is medium, I will do the things, but because it's a low impact risk, I will be taking some time. So if maybe I'm already having certain emergency things to do there, so I will allocate my money there. Remember, organization is not facing only one issue. They have might be 30 to 50 issues going on at the same time. And the budget which is allocated to your department, you have to carefully utilize it, right? So that you can only do if you have this prioritization defined already, right? So typically this is, if you go to the organization, you will see that they have multiple factors to consider, right? Lot many change approval is also happening. So everything you have to consider before you are going to implement the solution, right? So yes, I hope uh, you got your answer.
Certainly. Thanks much.
Okay. forward here. So now we had just seen that how do we do the risk analysis. Remember, risk analysis is basically helping us to understand um, the overall impact, and that's what our goal is. Because if you don't understand the impact, you're not in a position to decide whether to implement control now, or might be I'm going to implement the control later. Right. Next thing which we have to consider here is to understand. So remember the two type of analysis section we have. One is the qualitative, and the another one is called as the quantitative analysis there. It means if we can assign a certain dollar figure. Now, quantitative analysis definitely is a good analysis there, but the thing is, if you don't have the enough data, okay, then the calculation of quantitative analysis can be tough. And that's the reason typically you will see organizations are using both of them, which is called as the hybrid analysis. So let's understand quantitative analysis, how exactly it's happening. We will take a simple example to understand this, although it is going to be, is basically typically a very complex activity. But let's understand how exactly it will run. Take an example, you have an asset. Okay, let's consider that the asset which you're trying to secure is your operating system itself, which you purchased, let's assume in $300. So this is called as asset value. Now, typically the asset value is not only going to be your purchasing cost. It should be the overall value that asset is generating for your organization. So if it is your e-commerce web server, so might be to set up that e-commerce server, you expended more than $10,000. But the overall value what it is generating is more than $3 million. So in such case, the asset value is that $3 million what you are getting, because if that asset is down, you will be losing that $3 million revenue you might be generating in a month or might be in a day there. Okay, take an example, if the Amazon e-commerce website is down, right, they're going to face a huge loss because the customers are not able to place the order and very many things which can happen. So asset value, typically the overall value it is generating, but to understand this calculation, we will be simply considering the purchasing cost right now here. Another thing which you have to consider is what is the threat right now this asset is facing. So again, in a real life scenario, there are multiple threats one asset might be facing. But to understand this calculation, let's consider malware is one of the threat we have. So the question is, what is the exposure factor of this malware against the asset? So exposure factor simply defined that what is the probability where this threat may exploit your asset. Okay, so that is called the exposure factor, which means what is the chances, probability, where this threat may exploit my asset. So based on your previous record, you might consider the chances are 30%. Remember, based on previous record, it means you may be maintaining certain threat register where you're maintaining information about what threat my organization is facing and how frequently that is facing, what was the action previously taken, and even after the action, how many times it is coming. Take an example, malware. So for the malware, might be you already had implemented some antivirus solution, but even after that, some malware is able to execute it. Why? Because malware typically, or antivirus typically works on the signature. If you don't have the latest signature, or if the vendor don't release the signature, you're not able to kill out that malware. So still there is a residual risk is there. So take an example that we have a 30% chances where this threat can exploit my asset. Another thing you have to look for is the rate of occurrence, how often this threat is realized against your asset in a year. So this is called as ARO, annual rate of occurrence. Again, based on your threat registered, you are, let's take an example, in the last 5 years, the average value I'm calculating is 5 times. So in a year, 5 times this threat is getting realized. Okay. So now our objective here is to calculate the overall loss and based on that, decide what sort of control may fit best here. Okay. Sorry. So now here, what we need to consider is, first we need to calculate called as the SLE, single loss expectancy. Okay. So single loss expectancy is, if it is going to happen, then what's the overall loss? It means one-time loss. So one-time loss you can calculate with SLE times ARO. Sorry, not SLE. So this is called as asset value into exposure factor. So asset value is $300 and to exposure factor. So asset value is $300 and exposure factor is how much? 30%. It means the one-time loss you are going to face here $90. 300 into 30%. Okay, so this is the one-time loss, but definitely based on one-time loss, you're not going to implement the control. So you need to calculate the ALE, annual loss expectancy, which is calculation is SLE into ARO. So SLE we just calculated, which is $90, and rate of occurrence is how much? 5 times. So the overall loss in a year we are facing is $450. So this is basically providing you the monetary loss. How much money you will lose if this is going to happen. Now you need to understand, is this $450 is under my risk profile? So one important thing we need to check, what's the risk profile of the organization. So what is risk profile? So risk profile is basically the collection of multiple component. One of them is called as risk appetite. Appetite means how much risk I'm okay to digest. Take an example, I have $100 with me. Out of $100, I'm okay to invest $30 in the share market. So this is my risk appetite. Even if it is going to lose, if the market is going to crash, this may not impact me. Okay, so this is my acceptable amount of loss which I can digest easily. So this is called as risk appetite. Okay, so if this $450 is under your risk appetite, you don't have to do anything. You're okay to digest, because remember, your organization is facing different type of risk. So which risk to accept and which risk cannot accept it, you need to carefully decide in your risk portfolio, and accordingly your organization will take an action. Okay, so if this $450 under my risk appetite, I'm not going to do anything. But if it is not under my risk appetite, I have to take action. But it is not only the appetite, there's one more factor which will come here, that is called a risk tolerance. So what is this tolerance? Tolerance is basically the deviation from the given appetite. Take an example. If I have $100, $30 is my risk appetite. Now take one more situation where the market is keep changing. So what happened? One of my friends suggested that, hey, market is doing good. So if you invest more money, you will make more money, but still the risk is there, right? So I decided that I'm not going to invest more, all my $100. I'm going to take $20 more of risk. So now the total amount here is $50, right? So tolerance basically defines the deviation from the given appetite. So in a particular case scenario where I may have to invest more money, take an example, a new competitor came into the market. So as an organization, I have to make sure that I am still managing my customer properly. I'm not ready to share my customer with another competitor there. So I may have to change my strategy. And when I'm changing the strategy, I may have to invest more money. So this is the acceptable deviation based on the given appetite. So even this tolerance is again typically falls under your appetite only. And then the third component you have is called a risk capacity. Capacity is the maximum amount of loss, or you can say this is your ceiling. So if I have $100, this is what my ceiling is, right? I cannot invest more than that. Although I can do, I may lend money from my friend and invest in the market. But if the market crash, not only my survival is in question, but also, so not only my survival is a question, but also I have to pay back my friend's money. So an organization should not cross their capacity. Remember, this should be the rule. So why risk profile is important to understand as a security professional, because you need to decide whether to accept risk, because after this calculation you are going to suggest to your management that, hey, this risk is going beyond my appetite. So if you know this risk profile, you can better decide and suggest, and accordingly definitely management can discuss and will either approve your budget or reject the budget there, and accordingly they can actually move. So we can't say no, tolerance is not is the maximum buffer is your capacity. Okay, so we'll discuss more on this, guys, but let's take a short break here, and after that we'll continue discussing on some few more factors here uh, while we are trying to decide on the control implementation. I hope we all are okay to take a small break.
Sure. When we
Okay.
will come back?
Yes, much
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, I'm just starting the timer for you. So we're going to take a small 15-minute break here. After that, we'll resume our discussion. Let me just start my timer for you all. Okay, great. So let's circle back after this break. Thank you, everyone. See you after the break. Hi, everyone. Let me know if you're back here.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the confirmation. Let's move on then. So before we went for the break, we had the discussion over how do we typically do the analysis. So this is called as the risk analysis process, right? Remember, from the examination point of view, what they are looking to see, do you know the difference between the qualitative and quantitative analysis? So one simple difference is quantitative is looking at the dollar figure. It means some sort of monetary value. And qualitative is typically the subjective information. Also, the benefit of having the qualitative is very easy to understand. And that's the reason it is very easy to understand it to the, present it to the management uh, to understand what's the risk. And definitely based on that, they can do a quick decision there. But in case of quantitative, you have to explain the figures which you are putting, and might be they are not interested in looking at the asset value, etc. They are just looking at the overall loss probability. And also you have to provide a reference that what's our risk appetite. So accordingly, they can decide whether to whether the control you are suggesting is basically okay to move forward or not. So risk profile is something which organization is going to define in advance, right? It's not like when you are doing the risk analysis, then only you are deciding what's the appetite, what's the tolerance, and what's the capacity. This is already decided by the organization. Okay, and all you have to just reference whether this figure, annual loss expectancy, which is coming, is basically falls under my appetite and tolerance or not. And if it is not, what should be the control which should implement, which can help us to reduce the risk. So what is actually important here, that if the risk is not under your appetite or tolerance level, remember tolerance is also you can consider under the appetite only, because that is something which is digestible. Once you decide, once you have the information, what's my ALE, the next thing we have to do, definitely if the ALE is crossing your tolerance level, then we have to look at the controls. Look at the control. So control, why we are implementing? Because control is something which is going to help you to reduce the risk. And this risk reduction is going to happen up to your appetite level. Remember, control is not here to totally eliminate the risk, which is not possible. Even if you implement more than one control, it is not feasible or possible to eliminate all the risk there. So in such case, we have to work very smartly to reduce the risk up to the appetite level. It means implement the control so you can bring the loss, overall loss, up to your appetite level. The moment it is under your appetite level, you are good to go, because 100% risk elimination is not possible. Because every day there are new threats coming in the market. So even if you're able to reduce the risk based on the current threat you had calculated, tomorrow might be a new risk is coming in the market. New threat is there in the market. So are you going to invest all your money like this only? No. So always we have to understand what the risk is, bring the risk under your appetite level, and then make sure you're continuously analyzing the risk so you know what's the new threat is there. Right. So control is something which is helping you to reduce the risk up to your appetite level. Okay. So take an example. There are two controls which you suggested. Okay. One, because it's a malware, you suggested that we can go for antivirus solution. Okay. And the second solution you suggested that we can go for the EDR solution, endpoint detection and response. See what is happening in the antivirus. Typically, the antivirus works based on the signature. Okay. So the vendor, let's take an example, you purchase an antivirus from Norton. So Norton created an antivirus signature. And then the moment when you update your antivirus, it will download that signature from their repository and download it onto a local system. And then based on that signature, it will analyze whether the malware is basically known or as a new threat. And if it is new, definitely it cannot analyze it then in such cases. So based on the signature, it will analyze and let you know it's a threat or not. But EDR is actually going one step ahead. ADR is not only working based on the signature, it is also looking at some behavioral activity, right? It means it will look at the behavior of the file, what exactly it is doing modification in your system after the execution. So it is looking at the other parameters apart from the signature and then letting you take the action. So in such case, antivirus may be charging you $100 for a year license. But EDR when you purchase might be it is charging you $1,000 for a year. Okay, based on the way this licensing works for the EDR solution. Right now, when you are looking at the control, you cannot just blindly go and select any of the control, right? At the end of the day, you have to give justification to the senior management that how this solution is going to help them and what's the overall benefit you are making them for their organization. Okay, it means you have to justify the value of this control to the management. At the end of the day, they are looking for the same, the investment cost and what's the value it is generating for your organization. So what we have to do here is to analyze. Okay, so first of all, when the issue is what's the overall loss is $450, right? And the purchasing cost of antivirus is $100 and ADR is $1,000. Now you need to look for one rule. The rule is that your control cost should not exceed the asset value. So let's take an example, my antivirus. Is it exceeding my asset value? So my asset value was $300, right? You see the asset value was $300. So is the antivirus exceeding this value? No. So antivirus falls under this range. It's okay. But EDR is not falling in this range there. Okay, so in such situation, EDR is not a good. Now, why I'm looking for this? Because at the end of the day, you have to show the value. Take an example. You're facing $100 loss, and to fix that loss, you are investing $1,000. Does it making sense for us here from the business perspective? No. You are investing a huge money than what you are trying to preserve. So that is not making sense. Similarly, the another rule is the cost of loss. So ALE is $450. So your control cost also should not exceed this ALE value. So ALE right now is $450 and EDR cost is $1,000. So in such case, EDR is not fitting best here. So in my current scenario, based on this discussion, antivirus suits well because it is less than the asset value and less than the overall ALE as well. So based on this, we can select for the antivirus. Remember, in your organization, you are not trying to fix the issue of one system only. You're trying to fix the issue of might be more than 1,000 systems. So in such case, EDR may fit best there. But for now, based on the current calculation, antivirus fit best here. So always look at the profile, what you're trying to secure and accordingly decide. Okay. So antivirus, we are going to choose as a control, which is going to fit best in from the business perspective. Okay. So when you're implementing antivirus, which is a control, what it will do? Yes, it should be less than your asset value. But remember, here I had consider only one asset, right? But in your organization, you may have similarly thousands assets. So collectively, it is generating a huge value. And also, asset value should be based on ultimate value it is generating for your business. What I had calculated here, only the asset cost, right? So all these things you have to consider. So this example, what I had taken just for your understanding, so you know how these calculations are working. In the examination, they are not looking to give you a very complex scenario. They are looking to check, do you know asset value? Do you know SLE, SALE? So you understand this calculation well. Okay. So now, if you selected antivirus as a solution, so what we have to do that first thing we need to check if I'm implementing this solution, is it reducing something? So remember, whenever you implement any control, it will directly impact your rate of occurrence. See, understand this way. If malware is a problem for you, you implemented antivirus, right? So, so are we saying that after the implementation of antivirus, it is going to kick out all the malwares? No, right? It's not possible. There is always one or two malware is going to hit your system, because either you don't know the signature of that, or you don't know the overall behavior impact it is creating for you there, which is suspicious. I'm talking about from both perspective, antivirus and EDR. So, but what it can surely do, the known issues, known malwares, it can kick out. That can happen surely. Okay. So in such scenario, what we have to understand that when you implement any control, it can impact directly the rate of occurrence. So if it is coming 5 times previously, now might be the rate of occurrence reduced to 2 times. And if it is reduced to 2 times, so if you calculate the fresh ALE, so SLE times ARO, right? So SLE we had calculated previously $90, and now the fresh ARO we checked is 2 times. So now the fresh loss is $180. Previously it was $450. So if you wanted to calculate the value of control, so you can calculate in this way: ALE before implementing the control, which was $450, minus ALE after implementing the control, which is now $180, and then minus cost of control. So how much we are investing in purchasing the control is $100, right? Now this will provide you the value of control. I think it will come around $170. It means before implementing the control, you were losing $450, but after implementing the control, you are able to save $170. So this is what the value of control in your organization. So this one basically you can actually present to the management that, hey, after implementing the control, this much I'm actually able to save, right? And definitely if it is something excites the management that yes, this is a good saving for the organization, and definitely they can do the approval at the end of the day very easily for you there. So this is how exactly you can calculate the value of control for your organization. But at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this analysis is to decide whether the risk is basically reduced up to the appetite level or not there. Could under control impact ARO or the exposure factor? See, exposure factor not, and the reason behind is, remember exposure factor you are calculating based on your previous calculation, correct? I mean, in the last 5 years, the overall average, how many times or what is the probability this virus can hit your organization? So if it is 30%, it is still going to be 30% there, right? But yes, the rate of occurrence, how often it is hitting you, that can be impacted because now you implemented antivirus. So if the first virus came, it can kick out. Why? Because the malware is aware, I mean, anti-malware or antivirus is aware about the signature. So the moment it's seen you, kick out. Second came, kick out. But the third came, which might be uniquely created by some attacker. Now that signature the virus antivirus don't have, and they are not able to detect it. So in such case, that virus or malware is going to be successful in the system. So remember, your exposure factor is not going to be, but rate of occurrence is going to be impacted here. How often it is impacting your organization, and this could be a good. I hope it makes sense, Daniel. Okay. So now we know what's the difference between qualitative and quantitative analysis, and that can help us to decide what sort of control can help here. Okay. Now, because we are aware about what's the difference between qualitative and quantitative. So what we started with, so first understand the goal of the organization. Based on the goal, organization will procure the relevant asset. Okay. Now asset because is in danger, because definitely the attacker may have a certain motive to attack on you and try to compromise the information. So what you did, so first you need to check what's the threat, okay, and then we done what risk analysis. So overall, what exactly the impact if this threat is going to realized. Risk analysis has given you a figure, a kind of impact, and then based on that impact, you decided what sort of control can fit best here. Remember, the whole goal of implementing the control is to reduce the risk up to your appetite level or tolerance level. You cannot eliminate the risk 100%, and that's the reason this strategy will be the best, where you have to reduce the risk up to your appetite level. Now, the next thing we have to look for whenever you are trying to manage the risk, because the risk is basically the continuous activity. I mean, the different type of risk which will come up there. So in such case, it's always important for us that we should be following some sort of framework. So there is a risk management framework given there by NIST, and I will recommend you to remember this number for your examination as well. So for the risk management, so remember the whole goal of this entire activity is to manage the risk. So for it's always okay and it's always good to have some sort of risk management framework, because risk management framework will guide you how to treat the risk. So when it comes to the risk management framework, one of the risk management framework given there by NIST is 837. Okay, so 837 is actually one of the risk management framework which is guiding you how to treat the risk if it is going to occur. So it's a structured approach developed by NIST to help organizations manage their cybersecurity risk. Now, as per NIST 837, the first activity you have to do is to prepare your organization for managing the risk, any sort of risk there. How can you do that? So prepare means understand the organizational context, the risk tolerance level, and the resources. See, there are different type of risk you are facing. So first understand what's under which context you are trying to manage the risk. Is it the physical risk? Is it the logical risk? Is it the business risk? So understand the context, what sort of risk you are trying to manage there. Prepare both the organization and the individual system so we can manage security and privacy risk accordingly there. Now, once you prepare, and I mean, once you have a certain context of managing the risk, then you can work on what? The categorizing the risk. Now, this is important from the governance perspective as well, that we know the overall impact level. It means do the risk calculation and determine the impact of the risk, whether it is the low risk, medium risk, or high risk. Okay. Now, this will help you to prioritize which risk you are going to treat first and which risk you are going to treat last. Then based on the categorization, you are implementing the control or selecting the control first. So choose appropriate security and privacy control as per the another framework which is given there by NIST 853. So in 853, you will be getting a catalog of control. So based on the kind of risk, they will suggest you certain control levels. Definitely which control fit best for your organization depends on the context of the risk, right? But NIST 853 could be a good reference framework for selecting the control, although it is not necessary if you're already aware about, but yeah, select the control based on the risk you are facing. Okay, next thing, you will be implementing the control there. It means once the control is selected, okay, and you tailor the control accordingly, put the selected control in place and document how each control is implemented. Now, once the control is implemented, you need to assess the effectiveness of the control, how effective that control against the risk which you're trying to mitigate. I mean, is it mitigating under your appetite level or not? That is what exactly you wanted to see, right? And once it is done, typically this assessment is going to happen through your testing team or auditor. Once it is done, then you will authorize it. Okay, so senior officials will decide whether the system has acceptable risk and can operate. Now this results to be the ATO, that is called authorization to operate. That yes, the system is okay to operate in that given situation or environment. And then you have to continuously monitor the risk, because when you do the monitoring, might be a new risk is you are detecting, and this will trigger the prepare, categorize, select, implement, assess, authorize, monitor again. So risk management framework is a continuous cycle. It's not a one-time effort. So if you're implementing framework like this, you are actually going to follow a structured approach. So understand the context, categorize the risk, select the control, implement the control, do the assessment. So you can authorize it and then monitor it continuously. I will recommend you from the examination perspective, at least these steps you are aware about what is happening in each of the systems there. We don't need to go in depth each all of them because that is not important. We are not learning the 837 framework. There is a different separate course only for the 837, which also IAC2 had created. This is called as CGRC. Okay, that is on the governance perspective. Only to understand this entire documentation, there is a separate course also available. But again, our goal is not to understand 837. Our goal is to manage the entire security controls within the organization. But yes, I mean, when we're talking about the controls like network, so for network security, you have to understand how firewall works, right? So we are not learning how firewall works. We're learning how we build the strategy for implementing the control. And that is very, very much important, because once the strategy is built, control implementation is not a hard task, because at the end of the day, it is the operational team who will implement the control for you there. Let me know if there's any question you all have any on this framework or all the process we had discussed so far. Yes, no, anything. I hope the pace of the session is okay for you all guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
One small thing I would like to know is, as you mentioned, that authorize the report and then authorized to operate will come from leadership. So that means before that we are not allowed to use, and this will be only on the paper. I
No,
mean,
not on the.
this part.
See, take an example.
Hmm,
There is a risk you are facing, and
hmm,
what you done, you called vendors that, hey, I'm facing this risk. Can you suggest which control is going to help me to fix this? So vendor told, I mean, the consultant of your organization or
hmm,
might be a consultant told that, hey, firewall could be a best option. So what you did, you
hmm,
connected with the vendor that, hey, might be this firewall is going to help me fix that issue. So can we provide me a POC? Okay,
hmm,
on this issue to be fixed, how exactly it is going to help me. So either the vendor sent their engineer to demonstrate, or they sent the device, POC device, to your organization, and you,
hmm,
with the help of internal team, implemented this. Okay.
hmm.
After the implementation, you assessed how effective that control is, and then the team who is basically responsible for authorize this solution, because you cannot implement any solution in your organization without proper authorization, right? Otherwise,
Right.
it's not good for the
Hmm,
organization security posture. So a separate team who get the result of this assessment, and based on the overall findings, they decided whether to accept this device for the organization or reject it. So this is called as authorization to operate. Okay.
got it. Hmm,
And once it is authorized, then because it is authorized, definitely now you will be formally accepting the product
hmm.
to get it implemented. And then you will start doing the continuous monitoring.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I
Yes,
have a
sir.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize risk? For example, now you have multiple risks, or actually risks are, or you're actually facing the risk, something like a cyber attack to an organization,
Mhm.
and you see that your critical resource is on attrition mode, or actually he's about to leave the organization, who is at a senior leadership level within an security domain. The markets are crashing because of a cyber attack. You are losing your customers because of all these incidents or events. How do you prioritize and how do you apply fix?
See, See, this risk is basically a very simple to understand. And why exactly? Because this is what we are doing on a day-to-day basis. I mean, as a user, or as a, you can say, in our day-to-day routine, we always take certain risk, right? So you can take from that example as well, and definitely the organization is also working the same way. See what is happening. Take an example, in a day-to-day life, when you are performing might be multiple work, right? You also have to do a prioritization, right? And this prioritization you are doing what? Based on the severity level. What's the severity level of a particular activity or a particular work which you are doing there? Okay. Remember, risk is typically prioritized based on two main factors, which I explained earlier as well. One is the likelihood. How likely is that risk will occur? And the second thing is the impact. How bad would it be if the risk is going to happen? And typically for that, organization is having a risk matrix, which is going to rate them on a scale of low, medium, or high. Then they will determine the overall risk level. Take an example. I mean, there is a multiple situation may happen. Take an example. You are running an online store. Okay. So one of the risk could be website outage may happen. Okay. So this is one of the risk you are facing. And this outage can happen. Let's take an example because of power failure. Second risk you are going to face might be hacker is going to steal information, right? So this is the another thing, another risk you are actually facing here. Okay. Third, remember here, I'm just trying to put all the risk which may face. Third could be employee forget to lock the office. Okay.
I gave you the risks already. I mean, what I as an organization facing, something like a cyber attack, CISO -1 on attract mode, my markets are crashing, and I'm losing my customers because of I'm into gaming, and I'm losing my customers because of all these attacks that's happening, and so on and so forth. Now, how
Okay.
do I calculate the risk, and how do I prioritize which one to address first?
Okay. So, okay, in your given situation, so you have to look for, first of all, if you're looking for customer or might be cybersecurity attack is happening. So first thing, check what is the likelihood. It means which attack possibility scenario is higher. Okay, so first thing you're going to check the possibility. If the cybersecurity attack chances are high in my environment, so for that you can look for, okay, what are the controls I already have? Might be some critical controls are lacking. In such case, likelihood is very high there. Plus the kind of asset you are managing. Take an example, gaming, some games, online games, which are actually storing there. So that can be stolen, and definitely the organization is going to face a huge financial loss. Now, the second scenario where the customer trust may lose. I think that one you told, right? So in the customer trust, if it is losing, so again, first of all, what is the probability of the customer trust may lose? So there is a possibility that it is linked with your cybersecurity attack only. Okay, if the cybersecurity attack will happen, might be the customer data maybe get compromised, and because of that, again, the customer trust may not be there. So you have to first understand those likelihoods there. Then you will be looking at the impact. Although remember, the customer trust or customer data is directly related to certain attack chain only. So again, if you're considering all these two different scenarios, then look for the overall impact. Are you going to lose more money because of the customer trust is lost, which is definitely very, very much possible, because if the customer trust is lost, not only you are going to lose that customer, but that customer is going to propagate the negative information about your organization to the other customer. It means with that might be you're losing 100 more customer there. But if you're considering only the cyber security, in such case, you're only facing the known figure. Let's suppose 4 to 5 games are stolen, and it is distributed on the internet. Then whatever revenue you were expecting because of those games, not is basically going to be not happen, right? So now you need to calculate the overall impact you're facing. So definitely in such case, customer trust is going to be higher, because you you may be losing more money because of that customer trust, and it is going to be continuous because of this. So that one you will consider first priority and accordingly implementing the control. So again, the same thing is there. Check the likelihood, which attack chances are higher, and then check the impact. That will help you to prioritize which risk which risk is high, which risk is low, and accordingly you are going to populate to your management that, hey, this is the risk we are facing, this is the overall impact, suggest which one we should be removing. Hope you got your point, right?
Not exactly, but I reserve my question for now in the interest of time and everyone. Probably you and I can connect.
Okay, no issue. We'll connect there. Okay, so any other question, guys? Anything which is not clear so far? Remember, right now, just don't focus more on this particular thing there. Like, definitely, it's the first day of the session. So as we will continue our discussion, it's going to be more clear because this example will take more and more with the other scenarios as well. I had just considered one scenario, but over and over, remember, this is very much important because as a security professional, remember when you're working as a in technology, that time you have only one activity, and that is to implement the solution based on suggested by the or based on the strategy created. But once you go up to the hierarchy, there you have to make more and more strategy. And in such case, this calculation, this data creation is very, very much important because you have to balance the control getting implemented and also the management expectation. So you have to convince them as well. So providing the relevant data, so you can convince them, providing the proper use cases, right? So they understand that what is actually happened with another competitors might be one of the organization already got compromised. They faced a huge risk. So if you can suggest them and let them understand, definitely they can help you approve the overall budget, and based on that, the implementation can happen. Great. So yeah, this is what we have, guys, and I'm going to pause myself here only for today. We will continue our discussion tomorrow from here onwards. But I hope we had done a good number of discussion where when we went through the what is security, then what is information security, what is DAD, I mean destruction, alteration, and disclosure. Then what is CIA? Then we discussed what is risk analysis. Then we discussed on the risk management framework. We discussed on what is risk profile, right? So all these things we discussed. So from the first chapter, or not from first chapter, in fact, from the first domain, if you're comfortable with this topic, which I discussed right now, you're able to solve a good number of questions from this. So now I will be taking your questions if there is any. Yes, I will be creating a WhatsApp group, which is going to happen now. Let me just create. But in the meantime, I can take your questions if there is any.
Hi Rajiv, first thing I would like to know is whatever covered today, can you please mention the chapter in our textbook so that we can cover up for this week?
Okay, I can do that. Let
Mm.
me. So typically the first two chapter I started discussing. So chapter number 4 and chapter number 2 from the Cybex publication, that one you can go through.
Okay, chapter 2 is completed. Oh, which is the 10th version, right?
Yes, we are using the 10th version only.
10th version. Okay, fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
guys. So while doing, I'm pasting the link of the WhatsApp group. So you need to click on that to join that group there. Any other question? We'll do some. No, Balaji. Not. Let's not keep the question answer for first day. From tomorrow, we will take some questions there to understand. Although remember, see, if the concept is clear, it's not going to bother you. I mean, any topics are not going to create a issue there. Yeah, sample questions also. The same thing. I mean, what kind of questions you will be facing, what sort of language in the examination you're going to face. That we will discuss from tomorrow.
Rajiv, have you created the group?
right now?
Yes, I just created and send it in the chat.
And somehow not received it.
Yeah, I think you're not able to see might be the chat. Others can see the chat, right?
Yeah, it's in the chat, and you can click it and it works.
Yeah. So might be you're not able to
Yeah,
see.
it's just join now.
Correct. I can see some of you had already joined. 10 members are there.
Okay, the problem is I am logged in for.
Yeah, might be you just log out and log in again and give you the link. Okay, so might be the session pace is okay for you, and the way I'm discussing the topic using the whiteboard, that is also you all are comfortable.
Yes, space is good, very much convenient. Whiteboard session is good.
Okay. So Fred, for your question, yes, the risk profile is basically having three components for now, which I discussed: risk appetite, risk tolerance, and risk capacity. Risk appetite is the amount of risk which you're easy to digest, is basically something which you can see on a daily day-to-day life. We are actually taking some certain risk, right? So when you say risk appetite is something which you can digest easily. I mean, this is something in your digestible level. Tolerance is the deviation from the given appetite, because you never know some circumstances which may come up where you may have to invest some more money. I mean, think about a situation that you decided that yearly I'm going to invest might be $10,000 on the medical in my family. So if something, I mean, for purchasing the medicines, might be the hospitalization bill, etc. So you decide that's your budget, right? You decide. But there is a possibility some severe issue may happen. And in such case, you may have to expand this. So this is where the tolerance will come there. So and you have to be ready for that also. So that is how you're creating the budget for your family. Same way, organization also create the budget. And then the capacity. So typically for a department, let's take an example for the information security. This year, my organization decided that I'm going to invest $30,000. And in that $30,000 might be $10,000 on my users training, so I can upgrade them to secure the environment. So strategically you are deciding. It means $20,000 remains for what? For procuring a new solution or etc. If there is a possibility that in the training where the certification etc. come into the picture, I still have might be $2,000 left. So might be you in such case you can invest in some other component as well. Cool. Oh, okay, cool. Any other question? Link to download the book. I'm not sure if okay, no issue. I'm going to share one link in the group so you all can download from there as well. Okay, great. So thank you, everyone. We'll connect tomorrow, same time, with more discussion around the topics. So remember, today we discussed on from the chapter 1 and 2. Tomorrow discussion is going to be around the BCP, business continuity planning. So understanding this way, that if I'm not able to manage the risk properly with all of the calculation which we did so far, so there is a possibility of certain disaster, right? So we also have to prepare for anything which may go wrong beyond my planning, right? So see, based on the planning, I implemented the control, but beyond my planning, also some risk can come up. Then in such case, we have to ready for that one as well. So that is where the BCP will come. And then after we will discuss on the incident section, how we should be managing the incident within the organization. So we'll discuss around the relationship between the incident, BCP, DRP, and how within an organization we should be building the strategy for the same. Okay, but cool. Let's discuss rest of the thing tomorrow. We'll
Rajiv, I have a question. At what time is it tomorrow for the people that live in France? The Central Eastern time,
Yeah,
CET.
I have to look for. So let me just. I'm also in a different time zone. I'm not also in our Indian time zone, but let me just see. So right now, what's the France time? It's 17:21, right? It's a 5:21.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
that's correct.
going to be. So it's going to be around 3 p.m. your time.
3:30, right? CEST.
Okay.
Is it CEST?
Yeah, CET. It's not CEST.
CET.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same time
It
as
will be
today, right?
2:30 p.m. It will be 2:30 p.m.
The same time as
2:30
today,
p.m.
right? No, it's
Yeah.
2:30.
Okay.
Yeah, same time
Okay.
actually. Every day is going to be same time only. So yeah, it's 2:30, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
But check
Okay.
for daylight savings if there is any change from Monday.
Is it going to happen like this?
Rajiv, could you stay back for a couple of minutes while others may wish to drop or wish to stay back? I want to close loop on my question that I have asked.
Yeah,
Is it
certainly.
fine?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that question that is more around my organization is already on a under cyber attack, which is DDoS attack, if you want to ask, if you say so. I have my CISO who is the main strategist, and he is on his verge of leaving the organization, or today is his last day. Example, because of all these incidents or whatever, for last 1 week or so, I'm facing my markets, my share value is crashing, and at the same time, I'm losing customers, and there's a bad reputation. How do I fix it, and which one will I prioritize? Because these are not actually risks that may occur. These are actually in the position or on the face of occurring. It is occurring right now. That's the example that I'm trying to solve the puzzle.
Okay. So you mentioned here the DOS attack is because of that this issue is coming it up, and definitely because of that the market, I mean the user trust is basically getting impacted. So understand this way. Right now the attack is in your page, right? I mean it's already going on. So the
Correct.
first thing you have to prioritize is to stop that attack. Because remember, market reputation you cannot close in one day, right? This can happen over the time once you give surety to your customer that whatever control you had implemented, it is basically helping them to trust on you there. So the first thing you have to do is to stop the attack, because if it is going to be continuous, this is going, I mean, you're going to lose your people on a continuous basis. Now for that, I'm not sure what control you already have, but definitely there are multiple cloud-based solutions if you can implement immediately, like Cloudflare is there, and very many different solutions which actually utilizes AI-based technology to block, and definitely you can also fine tune based on the DOS attack is going on right now. Okay, now once it is done, the next thing is I'm not sure how the news is getting populated to your customer that there is a DOS attack happening, or might be your customer is facing some website outage or some application outage. That's the reason it is happening to you there. So once you're done, definitely you can restore your customer trust. At least the existing customer is not going to be impacted. And then you need to publish, might be a good crafted message with your public relation team there, that what actually had happened and how you had done the restoration of the work over and all there. And definitely a kind of surety that this is not going to happen, because we had improved our infosec strategic solution in a very directional way, specifically for the long term. And if you can actually give them the high level overview that what was impacted and how we had actually restored it, because I can see the information is already leaked and populated to the market. So in such case, giving a customer